we'll start from the start. So, look, this PC is going to a customer whose sister-in-law, I think it is, lives on my street. So that's pretty weird because, you know, my street isn't really a, I mean, it's a long street, but it doesn't have many houses on it. Because I'm in a rural area here in southeast Queensland. And basically, on my street, probably the smallest property is probably 5 acres. And the biggest property is probably like 150 acres or so. I might not be completely accurate. That's just, you know, ballparking it. So to hear a customer's actually got like family on my street and they've ordered a PC from me, it's pretty weird. Like we don't normally sort of see that sort of thing. You know, like it's not like I'm on you know, it's not like I'm on some freaking arterial road in Brisbane or some shit where there's like tens of thousands of people that live on the same street. You know, it's like Logan Road or fucking Milton Road or fucking Gympie Road or one of those, Wynnum Road. Any of those freaking roads that are really long, got a shitload of houses on them. No, that's not me. I'm out in fucking buttfuck nowhere. Well, not really. I'm 60 minutes drive to Brisbane CBD, so it's not like I'm freaking out in the bush or anything like that. But this is Australia, so I may as well be fucking out in the fucking bush and stuff like that. That's why my internet's shit, etc. So Mad Warrior's here. Hey Mad Warrior, how you going? Good to have you with us. Alright, well look, that's enough rambling and embarrassing shit at the start with me rambling with no audio. But I don't know, I was tapping my mic and I was seeing audio on my end, so that's making me think that there's a problem with the cable. So if at any point tonight the audio fucks up, please let me know straight away, because right now I have a new freaking diagnosis subject, and that is my mic, because all I did was basically move this cable around a little bit and people all of a sudden started to hear me and they couldn't hear me before. But when I tapped on the mic, I could see volume both in the streaming app on the streaming computer and on the wireless mic. So go figure. Anyway, so let's get stuck into this PC build here tonight. So this is a budget gaming PC, and this is pretty much as budget as you can go, with an AM5 CPU paired with an RTX 4060 Ti. So AM5 is a fairly expensive platform. Like, if you haven't been paying attention, AM5 is by far the most expensive platform on the market right now. It's more expensive than like the Intel LGA 1700 platform. So, you know, at the end of the day, you will pay more for AM5. So even if we are looking at a budget CPU from AM5, it's already fairly expensive. You could get a budget Intel option for cheaper than this, but the performance is better on AM5. So, you know, we'll just focus on what's best. The advantage here is obviously that we could put in a much stronger AM5 CPU here in the future, and we could put a new graphics card in there, and there is a clear upgrade path for this system. So let's have a look at it. So the CPU here, we have the Ryzen 8500G. So this bad boy sits just slightly below of the Ryzen 7500F. Which is not a CPU that's available at retailers here in Australia. It is available on a wholesale at a wholesale level, But if you're looking to build a budget AM5 PC here in Australia, this is the cheapest AM5 CPU available at major retailers like Scorptech, for example. So tonight we're going to have a look and we're going to see what this is like paired with a 4060 Ti. So based on my understanding of the specs of this is a good pair with a 4060 Ti. It's allowing us to, instead of just getting a 4060, we're getting a 4060 Ti. And this CPU here, compared to a 7600, is about $120 cheaper. So nothing to shrug at if you're on a budget. So some people, you know, there's the bottleneck freaks that get freaked out that unless you've got the absolute top possible CPU, then everything is bottlenecked and it's all fucked. And you know, at the end of the day, these people don't fully understand the big picture with bottlenecks. I've crapped on about this subject quite a lot, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it tonight. But basically, you're not going to be significantly bottlenecked if you choose a modern generation CPU and a modern generation graphics card. Okay? Any bottlenecking is minimal. Alright? Bottlenecking is a problem when you pair old hardware with new hardware. Then the new hardware can't sort of run at, you know, 100% capacity because the old hardware can't keep up with the new hardware. That's what a bottleneck is. When you pair modern technology together like this, any bottlenecking is single-digit percentages. It's not considerable. And considering how much more powerful a 4060 Ti is compared to a 4060, a couple of percent bottlenecking on the CPU it's inconsequential. You've got more gaming performance at the same price, and that's what matters. So if you've got some, you know, if you've got some friend and he's freaking out about bottlenecks on CPUs and you're worried that you're going to have to spend an extra $400 on your CPU to not be bottlenecked, maybe send me a message and we can have a chat about how much, you know, how this sort of works out financially and performance wise. Because at the end of the day, every system has a bottleneck. From a gamer's perspective, they want the bottleneck to be 99% the graphics card and all the other components can keep up with it. So that's a perfect world. Real world, you might have to go cheaper on the CPU, but if that means you can get a better quality graphics card, it's probably going to be in your favor. So anyway, without further ado, let's get stuck into it. With the Ryzen 5 8500G, we've got an Asus A620M AYW Wi-Fi motherboard. We have a 32GB kit of RAM here. So what is the speed on this? This is 6000 MHz CL36. We have a good old Silicon Power 1TB SSD. We have a PNY RTX 4060 Ti. We have a Deepcool PK650D power supply. We have a MSI Mag Core Liquid M240 all-in-one liquid cooler. And we got a Gamemax, what is this called again? I want to say it's the Storm 2? Yeah, I was right. It's a Storm 2. Look at that. Alright. So let's get stuck right into it. Okay, so this is the motherboard here. The Asus AYW A620M Wi-Fi motherboard. So these AYW boards are actually quite good for a budget board, and we'll have a look and I'll show you why this is different from some of the more budget A620M motherboards. Okay, so that there is the board. You can see on the side of the screen there, you can get a closer look at the boards and all the headers and stuff. I have expertly photoshopped a IO shield, sorry, a rear IO picture on the back there, so you can't see the cool design on the side there. I'll let you see it right now. It says AYW. It looks pretty sick. But this is sort of like the best budget board that you can get. So we'll go through the features of the board. So I'm going to start up the top left hand corner there with the 8-pin CPU power there. We have a nice direct touch heatsink there on our MOSFET and VRM. This is really important because if you want to plug a more high-powered CPU and graphics card into this motherboard, you need good heat dissipation on the MOSFET there. Very, very important. If you buy an A620 board that doesn't have these heat sinks here and it's just got a lot of exposed chokes and chips around here, that's going to get really hot. And if you put too much of a high-powered CPU or a high-powered graphics card in here, then you're going to have problems. So I've had customers, well, not really my customers, but I've had people who drop PCs in for repair that they've built themselves, and they've heard that, you know, you should always skimp on the motherboard to get the best graphics card. So they hear that advice and they don't realize that they shouldn't just buy the cheapest possible shit that they could buy. They should still get a reasonable motherboard, but you shouldn't spend like $800 on the motherboard. It's not going to get you $800 worth of performance, right? So that heatsink there, very, very important. We have AM5 socket in the middle there. We have a total of 1, 2, 3 fan headers on this motherboard. So just be aware, if you do buy this case, you're going to want some sort of fan controller, unless you only run 3 fans. We have 3 RGB headers. They are all 5-volt headers. So that's kind of cool. You can have 3 different 5-volt headers there. So you could have 3 different groups of RGB in your case, and you could control them individually with these 3 headers. We got dual channel memory across 2 slots there. We have our 24-pin ATX there on the side. We have a USB 3, USB-C. We have 4 SATA ports there. We've got a speaker header, front panel header, USB 2. We got COM port. We have our RGB and 2 fan headers. We got our front panel audio there and those little gold capacitors there down in the bottom left hand corner. We got 2 M2 slots. And we got our PCIe X16, and then around the back there we've got our Wi-Fi 6 and Bluetooth 5.2, 2.5 gigabit LAN, and 8 USB ports on the back. So 4 type 3.2 and 4 USB 2s. We got a HDMI and a DP port at the back, but we're not going to be using them for this build. We want to plug in all our display cables to the graphics card. Really, really important. Because this CPU actually has onboard graphics, but the problem is you're not going to get any of that 4060 Ti performance if you plug into those panels. People who install a CPU that doesn't have built-in graphics, they won't get anything at all out of the ports on their motherboard. Okay, let's have a look at these comments and stuff, because I am flying solo here tonight. Achilles says, personal opinion on Lian Li AIO coolers. I really like their fans, but no idea how reliable they are compared to Corsair. Had Corsair for 3 years, no issues. Yeah, okay. So, Lian Li AIO coolers. They are typically top tier quality, believe it or not. So, yeah, the fans are great, and their coolers all come with 5-year manufacturer warranty, which pretty much covers the pump primarily. That's where all the moving parts are in an AIO. The fans, they're sort of separate, right? They're a separate purchase. Fans only have a maximum of 2-year warranty. If you buy more high-end, top-quality fans, like the Lian Li SL or AL series fans and stuff that you probably have been looking at. So at the end of the day, it's probably worthwhile to just get the Lian Li cooler to go with your Lian Li fans. There's a heap of different models of it, and some of them come with various fans that you want, but there is a version called the Lian Li Hydro Shift, and that version has an LCD screen that you can sort of either load up system data and stuff like temperatures and usages and stuff like that, or you can just upload a like a GIF or something like that, or a picture or whatever, and you can have that instead. But yes, as far as quality is concerned, right, I wouldn't worry too much about that. Like I advise people when it comes to picking a good AIO cooler, the key thing is that you get one with a good manufacturer's warranty. Because at the end of the day, that's the manufacturer putting their money where their mouth is. Because just think of it like, I'll simplify this as much as I can, but you know, if you're a manufacturer and you're making a product, it's basically, you're basically gonna get fired, right? If you dare, you know, offer a warranty on a product that basically doesn't exceed that lifespan. Because for that entire product, if you offer a warranty that's longer than the average life expectancy of that product, then you have basically killed all profitability from that product, because as soon as there's warranty claims, you're going to be spending that much fucking fixing everyone's warranties that all the profit made from that particular product will just be pissed down the drain. So, you know, when you see a manufacturer giving a warranty, not a retailer trying to sell you an extended warranty, that's something different. But when a manufacturer decides to offer you a 5-year warranty, or even a 3-year warranty is pretty good these days. In Australia, the price of, you know, trading in this marketplace is you need to offer like a 1-year warranty by default. You know, if you don't offer a 1-year warranty on a new product, you're violating Australian consumer law. That's why you might have had, you might have looked at things and, you know, relatively cheap products, and you see this warranty information and you're like, what the fuck? I didn't think I'd have a warranty on this. And it's like, yes, they all have to give you that 12-month warranty. So when you buy that product and you see that little piece of paper that says it's got a 12-month warranty, That is Australian consumer law. So, just FYI. Board is all prepped and ready to go. Oh, hang on. Shit, I'm an idiot. I'm a total idiot. We have a cooler here. We don't have the stock cooler. I've just been crapping on with bullshit and not even noticing the thing that's just above my frickin' sight there. Well, that's frickin' shit, isn't it? That's what happens when you keep fucking talking while you're doing stuff. And I try to talk, I try to fill up the time with content. It's not really it's not something that comes naturally to me, so I've got to do my best to try to keep the commentary up while I do a PC build. And it's harder than it looks to do something like this and just sort of talk and have a casual conversation while we're doing it. And so sometimes I will make a little error like that. And believe me, I do my best, but I'm only human. Alrighty, so this is the MSI Core Liquid Mag 240 or whatever. Sweet. So it comes with two pre-installed RGB fans here. So basically what we're going to do is this is going to have to be front mounted, okay? And so we don't have sufficient room at the top in this case to mount a radiator, so it's going to go on the front. So that's not a problem because we don't have a super high powered CPU. If we had a super high powered CPU, I might be a bit concerned about the radiator exhausting heat into the case and particularly onto the graphics card. But because we just got an 8500G and a 4060 Ti, we're not going to have any temperature issues here. So okay. Well, I don't need much thermal paste because I already put this cooler down. It's got pre-applied thermal paste on it, so it's got a very nice and consistent covering of thermal paste there now. I will put a drop on there as well, just to make sure we're definitely all good. So I don't need any of this. Do a little bit of this, and we're going to do a little bit of that. Okay, AM5. So fortunately, it doesn't take me long to put one of these coolers together. Okay, so like I said, we don't need much thermal. I'll just put a drop in the middle there. Alright, shit. Got a few comments here. Sorry, Chili says, I mean the Hydra Shift comes with the fans I want with LCD, but also comes cheaper than the Corsair by $120. And that tubing from Hydra Shift, damn, looks good. Hydra Shift even has 1+ year more warranty, like 6 years. They said the fans are also included. Yeah, I wouldn't worry at all about Lian Li's coolers in terms of quality. Some of their early ones were a bit as I like to say in my part of the world, I would describe them as dunga. D-U-N-G-A, dunga. And what that means is exactly what it sounds like, right? I shouldn't have to explain what dunga means to any Australian. Even if you're not familiar with the word, you should easily understand exactly what that word means. But Lian Li's current coolers, they're not dunga. No, they are good. But like I said, it's literally the way to judge your quality of coolers without knowing anything about the brands or anything like that. That manufacturer's warranty that they offer is basically your guide to quality. It's the same for power supplies, right? Like if you don't know what you're looking at, you don't know which brands are good, and you don't know sort of which specs are good. You can't use the 80+ rating as a guide to quality because that's just the efficiency rating. So you could make the absolute cheapest piece of shit power supply you could, but if it had that efficiency rating, you could put an 80+ gold sticker on it. So if you're looking at power supplies and you're looking at the rating, you might see, oh, there's an 80+ gold power supply. It's only $79 or something or whatever. And you're like, oh, that's better than the 80+ bronze. That power supply is going to be much better quality in terms of the components inside it. It might not be as efficient, but how many people in Western countries buying gaming PCs and freaking out about how much energy they're gonna consume? I mean, even your uptight wife isn't going to be thinking about the energy consumption of your gaming PC. She's going to be thinking about how many hours you're going to spend on it and not talking to her. That's the thing, right? But she's not going to be thinking about the efficiency. Neither are you. Compared to something like your air conditioner, your gaming PC is not a big deal, okay? But yeah, the efficiency rating is a thing. If you move outside of the West, right, incomes are lower, but the raw price of commodities on the global marketplace stays the same. So if you live in Southeast Asia, the average income is lower, but the cost of electricity is pretty much the same, right? So electricity chews up a bigger percentage of their annual income. And as a result, people in that marketplace, they do care a lot more about efficiency. They care about price to performance and all of these things on a much higher level than anyone in the West does. You know, they will look at it and be like, right, I'm gonna design the most efficient PC I can, and how much power it consumes at the wall is a key factor for them. But yeah, guaranteed that 99% of people here in Australia are not thinking about how much power their gaming PC is going to consume. they're focused on how powerful their gaming PC is. So, alrighty, so I got the right cooler on it now. How's that? So we can power our cooler on the CPU fan header, because it's a 12 volt header. Our pump runs on 12 volt DC right there. So we are all good to go. So let's turn our attention to the case. So this is the Gamemax Storm 2. Freaking not too bad a little case, man. Like, honestly, the only thing I got to say about it, like negative thing to say about it, is you can't top mount a radiator. But that's not a big deal. You know, you don't even need a radiator. You can just get an air cooler. So nothing wrong with that. And this is a very cheap case, and it comes with 6 pre-installed ARGB fans. So that's pretty good, right? Yeah, we're definitely not going to have room for it up top. If we're not doing it up top, I probably need to reverse these fans. Yeah, the orientation will have to be reversed, because how this is going to be set up is we're going to have push-pull configuration on this radiator, which basically means we're going to have 4 fans on this radiator. And if you're thinking 4 fans on a radiator means, like on a radiator that normally fits 2 fans, if you think that that means double the cooling, you'll be sadly disappointed. Because the main thing is about the volume of air that moves through the radiator fins, if that makes sense. So think of the molecules of air moving through the radiator, and as they move through the radiator there's friction, and it like pulls off some heat as each molecule of air moves over the radiator fins. So having two fans on the radiator, but they're both spinning at the same speed, that doesn't like increase the volume of air being sucked through. It basically increases like the torque, or with regards to fans, what we refer to as static pressure. So without getting too technical on all this, basically it means that the air's being forced through the radiator with a greater force, but at the end of the day, oh damn, I'm gonna have to put these on the other side because I don't want to see any cables from these fans. I'm so sorry, I'm mucking up. I'm really tired. I've had a busy week, very busy week. Ugh. You can tell I don't normally front mount radiators, and certainly not with a push-pull configuration. Okay, so that's all reversed. Like I said, this is all about aesthetics here, because we don't want to see any of the thin cables. It's alright seeing the big chunky power cables and stuff inside the PC, but we don't want to see any of these little thin ones. We want to try and conceal them as much as possible. So if you're building a PC for the first time and you're worried about, you know, cable management, sorry about that, think about how you're going to conceal all of these little ones, because these are the ones that really look untidy. Okay, so the radiator is going to sit like that in our case, and our cables are up there against the wall. Perfect! Okay. Okay, so we got an addressable cable and a SATA power for the fans there. Just stay over there for now. So I wonder if Deepcool's gonna get out of prison soon. Probably not. Deepcool got in trouble from America for apparently trying to spy on the West. So I've used Deepcool for years. I've always been a big Deepcool fan. But there's now a frickin' a ban on importing Deepcool. So if you're looking at Deepcool things running out of stock and shit now, that's why, believe it or not. And it sucks because they just built like a frickin' $1.5 billion new manufacturing plant. And instead of building Dunga AIO coolers, they were actually building top quality AIO coolers that were like $150 each. And yeah, they're now no longer available. I mean, up until when it happened, I was recommending these coolers to everyone because the price, the warranty, the performance, like, I don't give a shit. I don't get paid by any of these freaking brands or anything like that. I'm far too small to even be considered for any of that shit. And I don't think I'd even really want to go down that road, because I'd rather just give you my opinion than frickin', you know, be at the mercy of corporate frickin' benefactors, right? Because we know they don't have your best interests at heart. They care about moving units. I should have a freaking IO shield in here somewhere. Yeah, okay. So, so Achilles says that in Europe there's no problems with supply. Yeah, okay. I mean, that's a little bit weird, but I think that's pretty much normal. So if I understand my geopolitics completely, Australia is much more closely aligned with the United States than Europe, which is kind of weird because Europe is in, like, directly in the NATO alliance. Whereas Australia's kind of in NATO. Like, if you didn't understand this, we are a what do they call it? And I can't think of the word that they use for it. But basically, we're an unofficial member. If push came to shove, Australia would completely align itself with Europe. We would be basically part of NATO. We're NATO. We're a NATO partner in the Pacific, basically. But yes, basically, you know, if America says, "Hey, these cunts are doing shit," we're suspending all trade with them. Australia normally goes, "Yeah, no worries, we'll do the same." But yeah, hopefully this crap gets resolved, because I don't give a fuck about what these companies want to do. I give a fuck about what's good value and good performance for me and my customers. That's what I give a shit about. All your frickin' political crap doesn't affect me. But yes, give us back deep cool products here in Australia. That'd be good, especially that AIO coolers, 5-year warranty, 150 Aussie dollars, which is sweet fuck all. Very good. So I just had to route those cables from the radiator block there out the back of the case. Okay. Alrighty, so we're gonna have to frickin' and do this in push-pull. So what that means is we need to swap the screw types on these front fans. So I need to go from standard fan screws down to long ones. Okay, so I'm going to chuck a little cable tie on here. Okay, so So, what have we got here? Oh no. Can I do this without dropping the fans? Okay. All right. Just hard to line up that frickin' first screw. So fortunately this doesn't happen too often. But this case is just such good value that it's worth having to muck around like this. Okay, there we go. Front mounted rad. How good's that? Alright, so I'm just hooking up this RGB now. key. So just remember, positive on the left, negative on the right. Okay, sorry about that. I've been silent for a while there. Sorry, I am trying to get better, get good. Seriously. Just such a small amount of room there to get that frickin' power cable in. I need little fingers or something. Need a different splitter. Alright, we're nearly there, I promise. Few more bolts and we'll plug in our graphics card and we'll be pretty much all ready to go. Alright, let's have a quick look at the feed. So Killy's is asking me, where are we? Is it normal for a new AIO cooler copper plate to have small scratches in brand new on them? Well, I don't know. I don't want to answer specifically, because I don't know precisely what you are referring to, but what I think you're referring to is just the natural machining of the bottom of the copper plate, because as it's cut from the machine, it will leave a small little mark. This is the idea of thermal paste, is that you can't even if it looks smooth and feels smooth, even if it feels and looks smooth to you, it's actually a whole heap of ridges and valleys. So you need to put thermal paste over it. The thermal paste basically flattens out those ridges and valleys, so it's nice and smooth and makes good contact with the cooler. So, you know, at the end of the day, they're never going to be completely smooth. If it's a scratch that was some sort of damage, it'll typically be a single scratch, not like just scratches all over the surface of it. So feel free to send me a photo on Facebook and I can confirm that for you. What else have we got? Achilles just said, yeah, NATO's got nothing to do with import-export. Yeah, I know. That was kind of my point. I didn't sort of specify that. That yeah, even though Europe might still have some trade there with deep cool, like I was saying, Australia aligns itself very, very closely with the United States. And if you're wondering, oh, why does Tim give such a shit about America? Well, that's why, because we're freaking joined at the hip. There we go. But I think that would probably be the reason why, right there. Is Europe and the EU sees themselves as a completely independent marketplace from the United States. And so unless Deep Cool was trying to spy on Europe, they're inclined to not give a shit about that and to just let the market deal with that. And that is completely legitimate position. I'm not standing up for America or Australia's position on any of this crap. I'm just sort of saying in general that, you know, we don't have much of a choice, and basically whatever America wants to do, Australia is basically on board with that. And I don't have a problem with that. I'm about as pro NATO and pro Western kind of person you're ever going to find. So if you're a hippie and think that the West is the most guilty frickin' party in the world, and that, you know, the poor Islamic nations are frickin' like, you know, they're the victims and shit, you can probably just go ahead and delete me, because we're not going to be friends. Just saying. I am about as pro-Western a motherfucker that you can ever find. That's why we offer discounts to veterans. That's why we support NATO, we support Europe, all that kind of stuff. Because at the end of the day, if China wanted to invade Australia, we would be relying on our allies in Europe and America. So, yeah, you better believe that we are pro-Western. Now, without ripping too much shit on our former closest ally, New Zealand, but they are going down a completely different route to Australia. You might have the Anzac spirit, as they used to tell us, but, you know, that was 100 years ago, World War I and whatnot. This is, the world is different now, and New Zealand's decided that they don't want to follow the American Europe kind of way. They want to remain neutral. So they don't want anything to do with the rest of geopolitics. They'll just bow to whichever nation is in control at the time. That's New Zealand's position. Anyway, enough talk about freaking politics here. Someone just asked, have you had any issues with the 12 plus 4 pin connection? No, I haven't had any issues with the 12 plus 4 pin connection. So the people who typically had issues with that, they were people who, these were like the PC enthusiasts, the people who went out and bought like a 4090 new on release date, and they went and stuffed it into their computer and hastily plugged in everything else. And a lot of those people didn't plug the cable in all the way, and so what happened was it shorted and then caused a slight fire. And then those people started freaking out, and then people on the internet started picking up on it, and then media companies started saying things like, oh shit, the new cable is causing fires and shit like that. And it's basically amateurs freaking building their own PCs and not plugging in things properly. You know, they're just too keen to freaking chuck in their new graphics card they've bought. They haven't even freaking hooked it up properly. They're so hastily plugging it in. Because all these cables, you've got to plug them all the way in. If there's a little plastic clip on it, you've got to listen for that plastic clip to snap. If you don't hear that snap, it's not plugged in all the way. And if you're plugging it in heaps and you're not feeling that snap, you need to closely inspect it, because maybe the clip is a little bit loose and it is actually in place. You just didn't hear the snap from it. But you have to check this shit personally. Okay, so we should be pretty much ready to go now. So let's see if finally I've put the thing together right. Okay, I just need to move the case fans onto motherboard control and we will be good to go. There we go, look at that. Okay. So we have posted so don't freak out. This BIOS update requires you to restart the PC before it begins. So Achilles asks about thermal paste on AM5. So look, basically, have a look online for. There are definitely wrong ways of putting thermal paste on a CPU, but there's no like specific proper way of doing it. It's just about the volume of thermal paste that you put on. You should put basically like a baby pea size amount, but ideally spread that around a little bit. Remember that the core of the CPU, right in the center, that's the place that gets the hottest. So just be aware of that when you assemble it. But you definitely don't want to get any thermal paste onto the pins in the socket, the LGA, the land grid array. You don't want to get any thermal paste there, and you don't want any thermal paste on the bottom of the CPU on the touchpads. Okay, so as long as you don't do that, you're fine. If a bit of thermal paste goes over the edge of the lid of the CPU, that's not a problem. It's mainly just a mess. So yeah, you won't have to really worry about that too much. So yes, once this BIOS update's done, we'll get Windows loaded up and we'll be good to go. Definitely fun watching this BIOS update go through, right? Couldn't think of anything more exciting to watch. Oh mate, talking about Europe and all that shit, all I can say is I hope that fucking Ukraine holds off the frickin' Russian invasion. I really want to call them the Soviets because I really don't think it's changed that much. But yes, Putin needs to be stopped. That's for frickin' sure. And not stopped by Trump giving him what he wants and making a concession and shit like that. I mean, he needs to be stopped with frickin' military force. Because if the West hands him Ukraine, he's fucking coming for Poland next. Mark my fucking words. Putin and Russia want to fucking regain the same borders they had in Europe during the Soviet Union. That's Putin's #1 priority. He will stop at nothing to get there. Okay? There's no reasoning with him. There's no making deals with him. The only thing that he understands is military power fucking stopping him in his tracks. You don't negotiate with terrorists. Mark my words. Mark my words. If he gets fucking Ukraine, he'll be coming for fucking Poland next. And the poor fucking Poles, right? Haven't they been through enough fucking shit in the last 100 years? Seriously, this BIOS update's taking freaking ages. I'm running out of shit to talk about. I'm just fucking bitching about fucking dictators that I don't like and shit. The fuck is going on? I don't know what else to talk about. Oh, I've got a small dog. She's very small. Not really, but I've always called her a small dog since she was a puppy. So that's now her name. And so she's pretty good. Good guard dog. Hey, yeah, good puppy dog. They're good. They require a lot of attention. A lot of attention. Okay, so after a BIOS update, it's basically like you've turned it on again for the first time, so you gotta wait a little bit for it to post. Okay, LED firmware. Small dog, why are you looking at me like that? Ugh. You really are small. I think she needs to go to the toilet. Hang on a sec. Alrighty, sorry about that. Stupid dog. It's taking so long. I'm having a beer. How's that? I think I can have a beer. The hard part's done. Another good question from Achilles there. So he's asked, is the about the pump RPM. So, as a general rule, pumps should always run at like 100%, a constant speed. So, pumps, if you're familiar with cars and driving cars, you can pretty much understand everything you need to know about pumps and how they run. So, if you've driven a car, you'll notice that below about 1,000 RPM and above about 4,000 RPM, it starts to vibrate more. Whether it's slow or too fast, you end up with the same vibrations. So the same thing happens with pumps. They get too low power, it starts to vibrate through the pump, or if it runs too fast, it would do the same thing. Only pumps aren't, these pumps on AIO coolers, they're not designed to run faster than what they should. But you can always run them slower than what they were designed to by having them on like a fan curve, like what you'd use for a DC fan or a PWM fan. But for pumps, realistically, should just be running at a constant speed the whole time. They shouldn't be going up and down in RPM. That's just creating more wear. The manufacturers design them so that 100% is basically right in the green section of the RPM of that particular piece of technology. Because you go beyond that, the centrifugal force starts to create vibrations and stuff because the RPM's not sort of balanced. That's what you're feeling in a car when you drive the car below a certain RPM or above a certain RPM. You start feeling that extra vibration coming from the engine. That's exactly what that is. And so that vibration, if you were just to drive your car constantly like that, you will do damage to your engine. Just the same as if you have a pump that's running at like 20%, it's probably running below its rev range, and as a result it's vibrating more, and as a result it's doing more wear of everything inside the pump. Some manufacturers, for example, give you a cable like this. It's a Molex cable on one side, one of these bad boys, and then it's a more familiar fan header on the other side there. And what this does is this means that just the pump runs at just full speed the whole time. And so MSI include these cables in all their builds, and it's not because people don't have the right headers on their motherboards. Every motherboard has this type of connection on it. This is so the pump doesn't go up and down in RPM. This is them ensuring that their warranty is most likely going to be not a financial disaster for the company. And that's pretty much, that's all you really need to know, right? About how this works. Just keep your pump running at 100% the whole time. You'll never do any damage to it doing that. It will just run exactly as it's meant to run. When they test them for warranty purposes and stuff, they're just running the pump at full speed the whole time. That is the default. If you want to make it go up and down and stuff, you do that at your own risk. I always set them up to just run at a constant speed. Speaking of which, I should probably go and set that up right now. I mean, usually the CPU fan header has an auto function. The board will detect what's sort of plugged into it. But it's always best practice to go and do it manually. So ASUS, we go to Q fan. So CPU fan, that's where the pump's plugged in. So we'll set this to just run at full speed the whole time. I'll tell you something a little bit strange. I had a YouTube comment on one of my videos. It was of a 4080 rig, and someone commented, they're like, why would you worry about wireless on such an expensive computer? If you can afford that, you can afford to plug in a LAN cable. And I was like, dude, so what do you think? Do you think I should sell someone a $4,500 PC that doesn't have Wi-Fi and Bluetooth? Really? Like, let's be real. Sure, LAN cables are more stable and reliable connection for the internet, but Wi-Fi speeds these days are also really fast. And for most people, it's probably going to be fine. But hey, I just thought it was a little bit funny. I'm like, what the fuck, dude? Because like, once you hit a certain budget, every motherboard has Wi-Fi and Bluetooth built in. It's not like we can go and select one that doesn't. Like, I don't know. You just get some of the strangest comments ever, right? When you do things publicly, and you're like, huh, what? Now, I'm not trying to be a dick or anything like that. I'm just genuinely like, but what are you talking about, man? Like, dude bought a 4080 rig. It's decently expensive. Like, I can't even buy a motherboard that I'd pair with a 4080 Super rig without wireless, as he called it. He didn't call it Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. He called it wireless. So that's a little bit ambiguous. He might even be talking about something else and just not using the right word. But I'm assuming when he says wireless, he's talking about frickin' the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. And I'm just like, but hang on a second. Even the cheapest rigs that I sell these days, I make sure it's got Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. Like, let's be real. Alright, let's get some drivers going on. Oh, I don't really need the RAID. I think something doesn't like Windows. That's okay. Okay, I think I need to get a new NVIDIA driver. I downloaded it. I don't think I put it on the SSD. Just bear with me. Thank fuck for fast SSDs, right? Alright, getting there. Alright, there's our graphics card driver. Okay, so someone's asked, why would you pair an 8500G with a 4060 Ti? The reason is because it is the entry level AM5 CPU. It is approx $100 or so cheaper than a Ryzen 7600. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the reason. It's the entry level CPU for the AM5 platform. So unless we wanted to go with an Intel platform or a AM4 platform on DDR4 RAM, I should say, our hands are tied. We don't have endless budgets for every PC that we build. It's based on whatever the customer's budget is. I work with that and I put together the best specs I can for their budget. So not every PC that you see here is like the perfect example of a gaming PC or whatever. Sometimes people come in here and they get butthurt that, you know, it's not as I can for their budget. And, you know, when you're on a budget, we'll typically sacrifice the motherboard and the CPU to get the best graphics card that we can. On the lower end, that always makes more sense. The mid to high end, you generally spend a bit more on your CPU, as a general rule there. Because if you know, we wouldn't be getting, put it this way, if we spend another $100 and put a 7600 in here, we're not going to be getting $100 more performance. We're going to get pretty much the same performance that we're on now, minus a couple of percent, if that. And that's the fundamental reason why we're doing this. The 7500F is about $60-70 more than the 8500G. It's not available at normal retailers, it's only available wholesale. If I order it, I have to order it from interstate, so I typically don't even bother with the 7500F. So if you can't afford a 7600, we'll typically go an 8600G or an 8500G to pair with it. It's literally just budget constraints, you know. If every PC we build here had an endless budget, then we could build everything at absolute freaking peak performance for every graphics card. We can start pairing 9800 X3Ds with 4060s and making sure every single bit of performance is fucking scraped out of every graphics card that we use. However, we don't have endless budget. That's the key thing. This isn't, you know, this channel isn't like, you know, showing you the perfect example of a PC to build. These are real people's PCs, you know, and, you know, I've got to, as someone who's running a business, I've got to like design the PC around what the customer wants to spend. If I don't do that, then no one will place any orders, right? So, you know, when someone says to me they want this and their budget is this, then I've got to do as close as I can to that spec. And, you know, sometimes people have a budget that's bigger than what they need, and that's all good. But sometimes people have a budget where it's really, really tight. In fact, I think this customer, their original budget, I think, was about like $400 less than what they've spent on this. And it was only through discussing the differences in the graphics cards primarily that I came to this configuration, because we're trying to keep the price down as much as possible for the customer, but, you know, we don't want to sacrifice any performance. So we're not going to spend, you know, we're not going to spend a lot of money on the CPU or the motherboard, you know, until we've got a decent graphics card in there, because any effect that the motherboard or CPU will have on the graphics card, it gets greater the higher up in a graphics card that you go. So if you're looking at an X3D CPU on the AM5 platform, the benefit you get from the X3D CPU is relative to how big a graphics card you put in there. So if you put a 4060 in there and you put a 7800 or a 9800 X3D in there, the percentage increase in performance that you get will translate to a lower frames per second benefit, if that makes sense. Slightly. All right, this is what we want to see in our on-screen display. MSI Afterburner isn't showing too many statistics on this CPU. Maybe I need to update. Done. Stress test. Alright, we're nearly at the end of the night now, so to make sure your PC is always set up, go into Device Manager here. As you can see there, there's still some stuff to install. And so if you're seeing stuff like this, and you haven't installed it and you downloaded all the drivers and you're still seeing this, This is where Armory Crate will come in handy, because it's an ASUS app and it will scan your computer and it will work out exactly what you don't have installed, and it will go ahead and install that for you. So unfortunately it's always a little bit of a fuck around getting everything installed. Even if you download everything off the website, sometimes things are out of date or whatever, and you will still see some devices there not installed. So you don't want any of these little yellow caution asterisks up on any of these devices. It's important that you do that, because not having something installed can potentially lead to some instability in the system, and you don't want any of that. So okay, well look, while that's going on, let's go and run Heaven here. High, no anti-aliasing. And so the stuff on the screen there, GPU 1 there in green. Oops, sorry about that. That's our graphics card. This is Armory Crate doing this. See the lines that are coming up there? It keeps opening up random apps, and that's what minimizes the benchmark there. I thought this was nearly done, and it was, but then there's 10,000 different things that this gauge shows. It'll get to the end there and you'll think it's almost done, and then it will move on to some other bullshit that it's trying to show. Anyway, so up there we've got our graphics card, temperature, usage, clock speed, wattage, MEM1, that's our VRAM usage and clock speed, CPU temperature, RAM usage, and this number below RAM, that's how many frames per second it's currently running at. And so as you can see there with the CPU usage, we're only sitting at between about 30 and 40%. CPU usage running Heaven here on high, no anti-aliasing. And so any CPU bottlenecking here is absolute minimum. We're talking about a 1% bottleneck here. So I haven't seen the CPU get up to 99, it's only gotten to 98, so that's how I would determine the bottleneck. It will drop, but it's peaking at 98, so that's a 1% bottleneck, so you know, not anything to get too concerned about. As long as it's you know, consistently sort of over about 90%, you don't have any considerable bottleneck. You don't have to worry about that. Armory crate with its needlessly complex software with all these different little things to install, and it takes longer than every other thing you install on the PC combined to set up. It's just so tedious. So you're getting over 400 frames a second here. Running heaven. See, that's not too bad. Like, I wouldn't be too concerned about this, honestly. If this was my rig for gaming, I wouldn't give a fuck, to be honest. Typically never see 100% usage on a graphics card with this overlay. You only ever see 99%. And even the best graphics cards ever, it will still drop down a little bit. So it's not like if ever it's below 99, that's a bottleneck. You got to look at the average, because there's this concept called 1% lows. And if you know what that is, then you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. So Armory crate's finally installed. Update and our drivers. So that'll fix those discrepancies that we're looking at. Waiting to restart. Alright, let's run Valley now. Valley's more demanding, and we're going to run it on higher settings here. So Ultra, Max Anti-Aliasing. And so even if we ran this on the same settings, Valley's more demanding than Heaven, so the frame rate will be lower. And that's exactly what we expect. And so as you can see, the frame rate's lower here, and we can see that the peak there is getting up to 99% now. So because the frame rate is lower, the CPU doesn't actually have to do as much work. The graphics card can just do its thing, and the CPU isn't really bottlenecking it in any conceivable way, maybe like less than 1%. See all that CPU usage, it's barely doing anything. So, like I said, this is not a problem to pair this CPU and this graphics card together. I mean, you're looking at the performance here, you're not seeing too much of an issue. And you can always get this as a entry level to the AM5 platform, get this for now and start saving and get your bottleneck, because there's always a little bit of a bottleneck. But yeah, as you can see, it's pretty much pegged at 99% now that we're running a graphically more demanding game. And it's a lower frame rate, so the CPU doesn't have to do as much work. The higher the frame rate, the more the CPU has to do, basically. So the next one we run is a 4K benchmark, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about there. Okay, so that was Valley there on Ultra with max anti-aliasing. And so now we'll have a look at the 4K benchmark, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about here, about the relationship between CPU and performance. One of the main things that X3D helps with is the 1% lows. So if you're experiencing a bit of a problem with that, consider doing an X3D upgrade. It is very expensive, but yeah, at the end of the day, look at that CPU number now. It's even lower than before. And that's what I mean. The lower, the more intense, you make the graphic workload, the lower the frames per second is, and then the less demanding it is for the CPU to keep up. So, like I've said to people for years, your CPU just needs to keep up. It doesn't. You don't need to have the most amazing CPU in the world. Your CPU just needs to keep up with your graphics card. And if you are buying modern technology and you're pairing modern tech, you're not going to have too much of a bottleneck. When people talk about bottlenecks and stuff like that, primarily what they're referring to is when you've got like a 5-year-old PC and then you put in a new graphics card, like a modern one, and then it's like, okay, how much is my 5-year-old CPU holding back this brand new graphics card? That's what bottlenecking really is. When you're talking about bottlenecking with all modern parts, the bottlenecking is tiny percentage, not a big deal. And you can't go, oh, because the X3D does this, then every CPU is bottlenecked. It's not that simple, because the X3D CPU has a shitload of cache, and that sort of works in with the graphics card. And yeah, those two things together help improve the performance of the graphics card, not because it's not so much the CPU is so powerful in its processing abilities or something like that. That's not why the X3D CPUs are better. The X3D, what that means is it has the extra cache on the CPU. That helps it with processing graphical information. So basically, you have the X3D chip and you get between 5 to 10% more performance out of the graphics card. So you get the best benefit from the X3D CPU if you've got a 4080 or a 4090. This cat won't stop fucking carrying on. I don't know if you can hear him carrying on in the background. Alright, well, we are pretty much at the end of the night now. Okay, well, we may as well just start up the stress test now. Okay, so there's our graphics card being stressed out by the nice furry donut. We'll set this one up for a 90-minute run. Okay, and so basically this is it. This is the stress test. So we stress out the graphics card and the CPU at the same time with the case all closed, and we make sure that everything's staying nice and cool and calm and collected. And if it is, then it passes the stress test and we can send it off to the customer. If not, we'll have to work out what is happening there. And so up here we've got our CPU, we've got our Ryzen 8500G there, we've got our voltages, we've got our temperatures here. So 57 degrees, that's pretty good. AMD CPU can get up to 95 degrees as its maximum. So as long as it's below 95 degrees, it's running within normal parameters. Wattage there, if you're interested in the power draw. I wouldn't worry too much about these percentages here. You've got your cores there. Got our RAM if you want to look at the RAM temperatures on each DIMM. But the main thing we're looking at, got our our SSD temperatures there as well. But mainly what we're looking at here is our graphics card. We've got our GPU that can get up to 83 degrees, and our hotspot can get up to 100 degrees. So as you can see here, we're well under temperature, under 60 and under freaking pretty much under 50 on the graphics card. So happy days. Got a couple of other questions here. Just let me. Someone's asking about BIOS updates. Always best practice to update the BIOS when you're plugging in a newer CPU that's newer than, is newer than the motherboard that you're currently running. So, whenever you do a new CPU, you may as well update the BIOS at the same time. That just makes sense. BIOS updates address compatibility issues between the motherboard and CPUs, graphics cards, RAM, SSDs, plus USB devices that you plug in. So part of the diagnosis problem, if you've got some weird software or other compatibility problem, part of that process is doing a BIOS update. To save yourself the trouble, just do a BIOS update on it before you install the new CPU. Got another person here, my coffee mission failed. Why not do the BIOS update regardless? Yep, absolutely. Where do I buy my parts from? From PC Case Gear. I live in New York, so mostly buy from Amazon and Newegg. Yep, absolutely. Amazon, Newegg are excellent sources for PC parts in North America. In Australia, so I buy a lot of stuff from Leader Wholesale. I also buy stuff from Umart. I buy stuff from Scorptech, and also I buy stuff from PC Case Gear, PLE, and M-Wave. But these are located in Perth, Melbourne, and Sydney. And I'm in Brisbane, so I prefer to do all my business in Brisbane. So those companies there. Leader is a wholesale only, so you need to be a business to buy any stock from them. But Umart and Scorptech, they've got great prices as well. So I wouldn't worry too much about that, because the margin in PC parts is tiny. So it's not like oh, wholesale, oh wow, it's going to be like 50% cheaper or something like that. No, it's like literally buy 10 units and save 10%. So you want to save 10% on an SSD? Just buy 10 of them. No worries, and we'll give you 10% off. It's not really that great. But yeah, for some things, for me, that makes sense. But yeah, for other things, typically graphics cards and stuff, it's cheaper at Umart and Scorptech, and the returns process is easier for me. So I typically buy graphics cards from retailers. However, SSDs, RAM, motherboards, power supplies and stuff, a lot of them you can get them cheaper wholesale. You can buy 10 at a time, blah 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 blah, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, PC case gear and PLE are typically a little bit more expensive than Scorptech and Umart. So yeah, but that, it depends. Freight is an important part as well. If you've got to get it shipped from interstate, that pushes up the price a lot as well. So alrighty, well, that's probably where we're going to end it tonight. Yeah, like, I think we've had a pretty good night tonight in terms of our discourse. Lots of questions and stuff. I do like questions. It gives me something to talk about. Because as you can imagine, doing this like all the time, it gets a bit like Groundhog Day, setting up PCs and stuff like that. I forget, you know, what I've spoken about in previous times. So it's generally a good thing to just ask me questions while I'm building a PC, and it gives me something to talk about. So happy days. Alright, we'll go back to main view. So look, thanks everyone for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you all in the next video.